Good evening everyone. Today's class is a very interesting one. Myself Ashwin. This is regarding Android Studio, and the first Android application will be developing in today's class. This is with respect to the module 2 which we will be discussing today. In the last class we had started about Android introduction, wherein how exactly the Android architecture looks like, and what all the different parts of the architecture we had looked into it. So today's class, what will be, as promised, what we'll be doing today is we'll be developing a small application of Android using an Android Studio, and we'll see how to build it and how to execute it. So this is our today's class, and various aspects of Android Studio, what all the facilities which is provided. So with today's class, before getting into it, what exactly we will be taking away from today's class? Today's class we will be taking what is Android Studio, and the first Android application will be developed. So this is part of today's class. So before getting started, so let's recall what all things we learned in the previous class. So in the previous class we learned about the Android, why do we need it, and the Android stack and the Android development environment. So what is an Android? Android is a mobile operating system used to, it is an interface between a mobile and the user. It is an operating system which performs various tasks, which means it is in between your hardware and your applications. So this part we call it as Android OS. This is what we learned it. Then why do we need Android? Because it's big, which means it has acquired 76% of the market in the global. So if you are developing, if you want to target huge customer, then one of your applications should be on Android. So Android OS is acquired by the complete globe. So and it's the open source as well. So and it has got huge application sets, and millions of applications you can find it in global in the Play Store. So that's the reason we have chosen Android over iOS and Windows. It has got its own advantages and disadvantages which we have seen. The next one is the Android software stack. If you observe, this is how it looked like. So the bottom was Android was taken from the Linux kernel, which we have seen. Then we have seen Android abstraction. Then we have seen the libraries and the Android runtime. We have the Java API framework, system apps and user apps. So this is actually, the Android has been completely built on top of the Linux kernel. So it has been made a light. Not all the features have been taken, only few features have been taken. And this is the layer where it actually consists of the complete driver sets where you can interact with the hardware. So the drivers, complete mobile drivers are part of your hardware abstraction layer. The next, various libraries which are written in C++ to the basic functionalities have been already written in libraries which you can directly access it. The Android runtime, which as we discussed earlier, Android runtime is the one which gives you the platform specific code, which gives taking the bytecode. So this is our Android runtime, which means you have written your code in Java or a Kotlin language. Then what happens? You are compiled it. When you compile it, the Java compiler converted that high-level Java code to a bytecode. Now this bytecode needs to be executed on a mobile hardware. So this is also a code which is like an assembly code, which we can call it as. This assembly code needs to be converted into a platform specific 0110 kind of a binary machine code. Platform specific code is nothing but your machine code. So on the machine code, it converts, the Android runtime is mainly meant, it is just like your JVM, Java Virtual Machine, where it converts the assembly language to the platform specific machine language. So this is the main purpose of the Android runtime. So that's the reason it runs on Samsung, it runs on Motorola, it runs on Nokia, it runs on various devices, Redmi, every device. So because it is using a Java, which is actually a platform independent. In turn, rather than using a JVM, they started using DVK, Dalvik Virtual Machine. Then they upgraded into Android runtime. Then we looked into what exactly Java API framework, which consists of huge set of how an application has to be done. This gives you huge library sets for the developer end to develop an application. So this Java API, what does, if you want to draw a layout, you want to use a view, a control, you want to access a broadcast receiver, many such features have been written using Java in this layer. This gives you all the APIs required to develop an application. So this is that. Then you have many system apps which are built in, comes along with your Android, just like your contacts or your alarm or your clock or your calling, messaging, all those basic level of system apps you can see, which runs at the back end. Most of the time your system apps runs at the back, your date, time, everything. So the user apps, just like our WhatsApp, Facebook, or our any applications which are downloaded and installed by the user, we call it as a user app. So this is what we looked into, the complete architecture of Android. Now it's time to execute the first Android application. So before getting on to the Android application, what I want here is, what is an Android Studio? How do we develop it? So for which we need to see how exactly what all the things will be taken care of. If you are observing it here, if I am going to explain to you, Android Studio is an IDE, integrated development environment, which means where you can develop a complete Android application from the editor to the debugger, after the compilation, after the execution. Everything is taken care by the single software, that is Android Studio, which we call it as integrated development environment, the complete environment to develop an application. It provides everything, the compiler, the debugger, the SDK, the AVD, the ADB, everything is provided by this. So it is very similar to your Visual Studio or NetBeans or a code blocks kind of a thing. You can do everything. This is exclusively used for the developers. You want to develop an application, you can do it. It is easy to develop using Android Studio. That's the main purpose. If you ask me, sir, can't we develop without Android Studio? No, I would say you can develop using Android Studio or without Android Studio. It is possible to develop without Android Studio. The next, why do we need that? Say you have written a Java code. Main function, this is an editor, consider this is an editor which is a main function. So you have written many codes. Now when you are writing a code, it doesn't mean that you cannot do a mistake. You people do mistake, everyone does mistake. So there should be some way to correct it. The syntax has to be corrected. What all the intelligent keywords we have to use, the right syntax or the features, say a bold, a coloring, or say which all the keywords, the variables, all this, if it gives in different color, then it is very better to use those applications. So it provides you an editor where you write an Java application. Everything is possible. Then you can, which means you can correct with a basic level of intelligence. It provides you more intelligent features like autofilling, where it gives you all the information regarding you type text view. It gives you all the functions available in that. Or text, if you type just a text, you can observe all the related items coming into the list on our view. So this is our editor, which is supported by the Android Studio. Then comes our using that, we'll be compiling, later we'll be doing a compiling. So when we compile it, it has to check syntax. So what does it do? The Android Studio takes all the APIs which you have used it. So you have done a hello world application which makes use of a text view. So in the text view, or nothing but text control, hello world. So it is making use of few of the APIs, Java APIs from the Android SDK. So you have linked it, you have referenced it. While compiling, it makes sure that you have used the APIs which are already available. It checks for the syntax exactly. Once the compilation happens, then it tries to link. Linking takes place. Linking the libraries. So now it is compiled. Now it has to be linked, which means you have used the Android SDK APIs. It has to be linked. Syntax has been checked. Now the linking happens for the external APIs which we have used it. So syntax has checked for our code, and now the linking is happening. Once the linking happens, the next is build, which takes place. So all these things happens while in the build only. You say a build, then the compilation happens, then the linking happens. So this is a very important step. So building is nothing but bringing everything together. The compiling, bringing all the modules together, all the APIs, linking, everything is taken care. I can call the complete process as build. The complete process as build. So after this, you get your dex file, .dxe file, which is nothing but a byte code, assembly code. You can say it as start, end, kind of a assembly code. You can observe it. So this is nothing but our byte code. So all these things are done using Android Studio. So you got the picture, I guess. Now let's see how we get into it. So if you are using Android Studio for the first time, then you have to install Android Studio. Go to Android developer website, then look for Windows, and then you start developing. So before getting started with the Android Studio installation, I have got certain prerequisites which is very important. The prerequisites goes very similar. First thing is, if you are becoming an Android developer, make sure that your system is with 8 GB RAM, which means it runs very smoothly, very fastly. So even it is prescribed in the Android developer machine, telling that if you have 8 GB and above, then it is recommended to use 8 GB and above. But if you think you have only 4 GB, you can develop, it runs, but running will be absolutely slow because it makes use of emulator, which is part of it. So if you I have a 4 GB machine which I'll be doing it, but what I'll do is I'll not execute it on the machine, rather I'll execute the application on my mobile. So if you have a 4 GB machine, then you need to execute your program on your mobile. You want to test every time you compile it and you want to run it, then it will run on your mobile. If you don't want to run on your mobile, then you need to have an emulator. Emulator comes with, it requires more memory, which means if you have 8 GB, then emulator runs very fast. Or else if you are using 4 GB and you want to run with emulator, it minimum takes 5 minutes to run one application. So if you developers usually makes use of 8 GB. So we recommend use a laptop with 8 GB RAM. That's the first part. The another part, you need to have Android SDK installed. Definitely when you are installing your Android Studio, then automatically it will ask you whether you want to install Android Studio. So few of the other things along with Android Studio SDK you have to take care is your HAXM driver, Intel driver. This is a very important driver because it is required for your emulator. That's the reason. So you need to install, you need to select HAXM Intel driver if you are executing using a emulator. So this is also very important part. Along with that, you have to take care of a Gradle build. So if you consider, so I have installed Android, I have installed Android SDK, then it doesn't get over. You can develop your application, you can design everything. But when you say build, or nothing but compile, then that is where the error comes first. So when you are integrating, it will ask again, you need a build tool, which is nothing but a Gradle build. Which is nothing but a Gradle build. So Gradle build is a tool which is a building tool which integrates everything together. So again it will be downloading everything. So overall, if you are installing Android Studio, it minimum takes an hour. It all depends on your network speed. You have great network, then it gets installed very soon, or else minimum it will take an hour to install the complete package. So do remember, if you have just installed Android and Android SDK, it doesn't get over. But when you do your first application, when you say compile, then it will ask, I do not have a Gradle, please install many other supporting files. Then again you have to install. After this, are you over? No, you are still not over. You have something called as Android virtual device. Once you have developed it, where do you run it? So as I said, you need to have an emulator. Along with that, you need to set your own virtual device on your system. That's the beauty of Android Studio. So if you do not have a mobile phone or you do not want to use a mobile, then you can test your application on a virtual Android which is running on your machine using an emulator. Emulator is nothing but your actual device. So on top of it, you will be selecting which Android version. You have plenty of versions available. So which Android version you want to run it on the emulator. Once you have that emulator and this Android virtual device ready, then your program will run on that emulator. So for that purpose, we require AVD. The last one, the ADB is required, the Android debug bridge. That is required for the purpose of executing your program on a mobile device. Because mobile device is not known by your system. Android doesn't know what is your mobile. So you require a driver to talk. As I said, we need a driver. That driver is nothing but ADB driver. So do remember guys, if you are using a mobile device to execute, then you need to install ADB driver. So which means you have a long way to go, long way to install, many things to install before executing your first program. So let's get started. How exactly your Android Studio looks when you install for the first time. So when you install for the first time our first Android application, let's get started. It looks very similar to this. Our first Android application looks very similar to this. So now I have already executed few programs. So at present you are able to see only the small programs which are already there. You can observe it. You have already few programs written. So when you install your Android Studio, this is how it comes. It is a very small 100 MB file. But you have not installed Android SDK or your Gradle, nothing is installed. If you are looking at this window, do remember you not installed the other stuffs which I said, the Android SDK, Gradle and everything. So when you say start a new Android application, that is when it asks you want an empty activity or something. It will ask you to install the Android SDK. So you have to select Android SDK, you have to select HAXM Intel. Once you select and install all those things, then this window will come up. Since it's already installed, it is not coming for me. So if you are not installed, then first it will ask you to download your Android SDK, HAXM, AVD, everything. So once you install all those things, then this window will come. So once your Android and Android SDK is ready, then this window will come when which project you want to select. So I'm going to select an empty project. So I can give a name for this application. Say first Android app. So, and the package name, where exactly it is actually a folder name, we can call it as. The package is getting stored. What is a package? It is nothing but the which namespace it is getting addressed. So let it be com.example.first Android app. Then we will be looking which is the location, we will be selecting it. Once all these things done, then we say just simple finish. So it takes huge time. Since mine is a 4 GB machine, it is going to take a lot of time before everything gets loaded onto your machine. So many things are coming up. If you are observing it here, so if you are observing it, many things are getting syncing. The first Android application, it gets synced, it gets built, a basic build will happen. So to see that everything is fine, then if you are observing our application is residing in this particular application, you can check that by right click. So it's loading. Let's wait till it gets loaded. If you want to open it in where exactly the application, you can check it out. Show in Explorer. Show in Explorer. So please spare with me. Since my RAM is 4 GB, it is going to take time. Okay, let me speed up my things. So this is where the folder is stored. This is where the folder, our application, you can observe it. So we are saying it, there are many things. Our app, that is where the source, this is where the main, and this is where my Java code. We can write our code using either Java or using com. It's not that visible, but example, find, this is where our Java file resides. So this is just to show you in the folder structure. Now going back to our Android Studio. So now, it's built ready and it shows that everything is fine. Since its tasks are running fine, okay, so things are good, so there is no problem. Do you think that the application is the first Android application is ready? What exactly we are trying to build? So in our first Android application, we are trying to build a window, and which we call it as an activity, wherein I am going to just display hello world. This is my first Android application. This we call it as an activity, and this we call it as a view, or nothing but a text view, or we can call it as an control. So this is our main application which we are trying to do. So if you run on your mobile, it will open an activity which we call the first page or the first window which is coming up, we call it as an activity. So if you have multiple windows, if you click a button, it opens another screen, then this we call it as an activity. So each screen in your application, we call it as an activity. So what are we developing? We are developing an hello world application, the basic application which just displays hello world on your mobile. So your application is having only one activity which displays hello world. So the first application looks like that. Now if you are observing it, let's observe what all things Android Studio supports us. The Android Studio supports us with the manifest, the Java, and the resources. Very important part. The manifest, if you are observing it, this is the first one file which we have to take care, which is taken care by the application, where what are all the components you have used it in your application, all those references are maintained here. How many screens you have, which are the references, which are the classes, all those information are stored in your manifest file. The next file is your Java file, where exactly the code is written, the Java code. Our Java code is written on com com.example.first Android app, our first package, the package which we gave. So in this we have a file called as main activity. If you double click, this is where you see the main activity. This part is your main activity. This part is your XML. So the actual code, if you are observing it, this is our actual code. So when your application executes for the first time, it is going to execute the first file is your main activity.java. So how do you say that? If you are observing it, you can observe we have something called as onCreate. In a main activity class, you have an onCreate function. This is the first function which gets executed when your application runs. So in this function, whichever the activity you have given, that is the first activity which runs. Since we have only one screen, which is a main activity, which is we call it as an activity. So that activity we have given, that name is activity_main. Activity_main. This is the first activity which has to be by default. The first screen is nothing but our activity main. So all of the stuffs, what is R, what is layout, everything we'll learn. So other part, if you are observing it, the other part is our .xml file. So if you are looking into the text part, observe it. Okay. So the text part, that's here we can observe the text part. Okay. So in our text part, we have one text view which is telling hello world. This is the actual code. The UI is written using XML. The functionality is written using Java. So in the UI part, we are going to display hello world. So we are observing what is the layout, size, length, everything is decided in our XML. So we can also view its design, how exactly it might look the UI, the blueprint. We can see this is how it looks like. So let me zoom it for your convenience. So if you are observing it, we can observe there is something called as hello world. So what exactly we are done today? So I'm going to end today's class over here because it is going to take more time when we build and execute. In the next class, we are going to continue how to build an application, how to execute it. So in the next class, we'll be seeing that. So today's class, we are going to show we have just installed our Android SDK, and we just created a new project where we started doing a hello world application. Now we have seen what is a Java file, where to look into the XML file. So both we have looked into it. So now we are not going to build. There is another process called as build process. I am not typing any code today. Nothing is typed. So tomorrow in the next class, we will be seeing how to code a few things, what changes we can do with the hello world, the color font, the expansion, the length, the width, everything we're going to check it out in the next class. So what all things we learned today? We just learned today how to install Android Studio, getting started with our first Android application. So with this, I'm going to end today's class. Thank you all.